morning. I'm Cindy Chancellor, and I will be talking to you today about financial aid. I know with all of us in college that hopefully I will come across a topic or concern that you have in funding your education. However, if I don't, do feel free to ask me. I've been working with financial aid for about 6 years, and I would like, by the end of this informative presentation, to be able to answer all of your questions about financial aid, any misconceptions you may have. I would like to clear them up. So first, I would like to start off with that with financial aid, there are important guidelines that you need to meet. And having said that, each college is different. I know that UHV, their deadline for filling out the application, financial aid application, is April 15th. However, other schools are a little different. I know University of Texas, their financial aid deadline is March 30th. So the first thing that you need to do when filling out your financial aid is to ask your financial aid office, what is the deadline? And the reason the deadlines are important is because there are certain grants that you may qualify for. However, they are first come, first serve. And so if people start filling out their financial aid in January and you're coming in April and May, then you may miss out on some of the institutional grants that schools may have available for them. So that's point one, that you really need to be, you really need to try to remember that it's very important to find out with your institution, their guidelines for financial aid. Step two is your tax return. No matter if you're filing just for, I know some people think that if they're getting a loan or whatever, that they don't need to fill out their tax return. That's very important to have your tax return filled out. And the typical rule is that you need the previous year's tax return. Say, for instance, we're in 10-11, so you would have used your 09 tax return and to fill out the financial aid, and that would cover all the way from the fall of 10 all the way to the summer of 2011. Now, with financial aid offices, and generally this is a rule of thumb, you need to notify your financial aid office if you want to go to summer school. Some financial aid offices will send that information to your email. However, a lot of them don't, because of, UHV is small. They may have an opportunity to, email you. When you get to schools like UT, there's 40,000 students. So a lot of times the ball is in your court to actually ensure that you check with them to let them know that you want to go to school for summer. Okay, so that was point two with your tax return. One good point that I would like to mention, I know that a lot of people, when they're filling out their financial aid, don't really understand where do you put, like, how much you made for the year, how many dependents they asked for, how many exemptions you had. Well, now this is the first year FAFSA, which is financial aid. That's what you fill out to see if you qualify, if you're getting Pell Grants, and it's also what you fill out if you're applying for loans. The IRS has linked up with FAFSA now, and when you fill out your financial aid, it asks you, do you want me to link, your IRS tax return to your FAFSA? And that's really helpful, because the institutions now can just go, if they see that you've done that, they can just go in, look and see, and they can kind of complete that for you. And a lot of times if you're selected for verification, and what verification is, it's a process of the financial aid office will ask you for your tax return. They want to verify how many people are in your home. Well, the tax return part will be taken care of because you'll have it linked, and I just thought that was a great feature because a lot of times people have problems with that. The third thing I would like to go over is the types of aid. I passed you out a book, and it's called Funding Education Beyond High School. If you would turn to page 13 and go about to the middle of the page. Okay. Everybody, okay, everybody got that? Okay. There are typically three types of federal student aid. You have grants, work study, and loans. And under each of those, you have additional program with the grants. There are 4 kind of grants. There's the federal Pell Grant, which is, if you turn to the next page, well, it's still on that page. Pell Grants are awarded based on your need. And what that is they'll take your tax return and say, for instance, you make $30,000 and you're single. Well, you may not qualify for a Pell Grant because, unfortunately, even though for you that may not be enough to live off of, but for our government, they consider you basically a high roller, that you don't need any money, and they would indicate that you would have to do loans, you know, if you don't qualify. However, if you're the same person making $30,000 and you have 4 kids, bingo, you qualify for the full amount, which is $5,500. Only if you go full time. If you decide to go half time, then they would split that in half. So you have to remember, even though the Pell Grant, I mean, when you fill out your application, it shows what you're eligible for if you go to school full time. So that's something to you know, be mindful of when you, or if you know someone that's filling out the application for financial aid. The second thing that falls up under grant is a federal supplemental education grant. And what that is, that's totally need-based. If you have to basically have a 0 EFC, and what that grant does, it supplements your Pell Grant. However, it's also, when I was talking about eligibility, I mean, checking with your institution to see, I mean, turning your paperwork in on time. These are one of the grants that are first come, first served. If you don't have your paperwork in on time, you can't come in and say, well, last year, you know, I got this grant or whatever. You have to be very mindful of that this is, you know, money that has a cap on it. So you have to fill it out quickly and get your information in. And sometimes if, like, maybe if the, per se, the school do have extra money, they will give it to students who don't qualify for Pell Grant and only are loan eligible, but this student don't want to take out a loan. Let your financial aid counselor know, because sometimes money's become available that they can give to you, you know, if they have you on the waiting list. The third thing that they have that fall under grants, is a Teach Grant. And what a Teach Grant is you're eligible up to $4,000 a year, which they would break that off 2000 first semester, 2000 second semester. However, it has a few stipulations. If you turn on to page 14, it'll go over with you a few things about the Teach Grant. You would have to serve for 4 years in a high-need school. If you serve in a high-need school for 4 years, or if not a high-need school, a school that's low income. When I say high-need, say like, I know that in a lot of schools they need math teachers. If you know that this school is struggling on their tax test, then they may want you as a math teacher, and you won't have to pay in this $4,000 back. But on the flip side, if you don't meet the stipulations for the Teach Grant, they will turn that into a loan, and you will owe all the money back. So you're kind of like, have to do what they say in order not to have yourself owing a whole bunch of money. And the fourth thing that's under that is the Iraq-Afghanistan Service Grant. And what this grant is for students whose parents have either died in one of these wars. If you have a student or know of a student that parent have died in one of these wars, then they are eligible for this grant, and it's all the way up to $5,500, which they will split it per, for the fall and the spring. And all you have to do, it's not need-based. You just have to show them that you are a student of a service member that died in service to our country. Okay. And the third thing I would like to talk about, or which is on the thing, is loans. If you would turn to page 16. There are certain loans that you can take out. However, I know you guys may know that loans are something that you have to pay back. So if you take out money from loans, you have to pay it back. It's not, in one thing I find that come into the office all the time when students are awarded their loans, they think they're just going to get the money. When you are awarded a loan by your financial aid office, you most definitely have to go online and read. They have something called, where you go on and you go over the stipulation in terms of the loan, so that you can know that definitely you have to pay this money back with interest. And at that time, you sign, and then they will send the money to the school. The other thing that I mentioned that you can get while you're in school is work study. These are one of the 3 types of federal student aid student that falls up under federal student aid, work study. And you can do work study whether you are undergrad or grad, you just have to be need-based. Now that I've gone over all of the stipulations and the types of aids that they have, are there any questions before I close? Okay.
I had a quick question.
Okay.
Do you have to pay the loan back while you're in school?
No, you don't have to pay the loan back while you're in school. However, if you drop below 6 hours, you would have to, at that time, start making payments on your loans. But other than that, it's 6 months after you're out of school, and if you have hardship after that, you most definitely need to contact them to let them know about your situation so that they can defer your loans.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One question.
Okay.
It's about the Pell Grant. It says that the grant, it can change yearly, and the maximum award for 2010 to 11 is a little over $5,500. So when do y'all know when it's gonna change? Like, when do you know what the amount will be for the next year?
They typically bring that out at the end of, like, we already know what it is for 11-12. They didn't increase it.
Okay.
We were notified about that maybe like September, October. It's going to be the same amount, $5,550. Is that all? Well, thank you for listening to me and asking me questions. I appreciate it. Thank you.